Warhammer Age of Sigmar 4th edition was released almost a year ago. When Scaventide box just got teased, everybody, and me included, was excited about new rules, even though indexes we got were not so impressive. General rules seemed fun and everybody hoped for the same level from battle tomes we got on the 3rd edition. However, when they got released, it was clear that the rules were just a copy-paste from indexes with little changes. And if for indexes, lack of interesting mechanics and interactions were forgivable, development team has to just rapid fire them for every single faction, and there are 24 of them in comparison to 21 and 40k. Still, everybody can agree that this is not an easy task to make all of them align with the themes and be at least somewhat unique and interesting to play. But here is what happened. It seems like Age of Sigmar development team decided to go the route that is generally considered to be the most debatable one, making each faction as balanced as possible, bringing it to 50% win rate and trying to allow all units to be played. It led to the current condition of the game, where the best way to play Age of Sigmar right now is Spearhead. It's fast, it gives you a short grasp of the faction, and it is well balanced. What happens when we go to larger battles in a regular game? As a wannabe hero and auto endurer, specifically Stormcast and Seraphon, yes, I like big immortal demigods and ferocious righteous dinosaurs, I noticed that both armies kind of feel the same, and it's not only because, oh, I have big men and gals and they just fight different. We add a different bonus to something while most of the interesting interactions are moved to specific heroes. Like Slan has the bringing back ability referring to the summoning in the 3rd edition, or they're just completely changed and removed. We will dive into that a little bit later, but a short disclaimer before. I love it when rules get simplified, especially when devs put a lot of thought into it. Switch to 10th edition, give me 2. And in comparison, when I just opened the list builder for Old World, I got terrified. And yet, it only works when the army has its flavor and theme. Why did I give the example of 40k? Because every single time I see new rules leak, I see how devs are trying to keep flavor of the faction, and even if you don't know which rule leak it is, you can often clearly tell. If I play Chaos Space Marines or World Eaters, it's a completely different game to me, even though they're technically on the same side as Seraphon and Stormcasts. It's still fun. I might not achieve the same height in performance against different or even the same lists, but I have the flavor, and when my army does what it is designed to do, it does it perfectly. What do we have in Age of Sigmar now though? I will give example just of armies I play, but if you have anything that you think is relevant, feel free to write it in the comments. I saw a lot of people pointing it out in general on different forums, which made me make this video in the first place, but more examples will just prove the point, and is also interesting for me to read more detailed opinions on the topic. So, Stormcasts. Instead of storm hosts, we got chambers. Different units are members of different chambers: Ruination Chamber, who are more durable; Vanguard Chamber, who are basically cavalry on dragons; Lightning Echelon for flying dragons; Sacrosanct for wizards; and Thunderhead for mixed warrior chamber with some other units. Does it still sound fun? Well, it kinda does. I truly enjoy mixing my dragons and Ruination Chamber units with warrior chamber, and getting this +1 to hit roll, as well as keeping an interesting composition of how my army looks on the battlefield. But what did I play in the 3rd edition? I played Hallowed Knights Allegiance, or Stormhost, formations from previous editions if somebody doesn't know, of that sweet 4+ fight before death, giving me at least the feeling of heroic warriors who will never die without dragging someone with them. And that's not the only formation that there is. Want to play a beast-slaying army that will never yield from monstrosities on the battlefield? Play Astral Templars. Want to have your Stormcasts fly in the air and descend on your foes like a mighty warriors they are, killing at least 12 of them just to sustain their name? Play Tempest Lords. And so on and so on. Up to 10 different flavors you can give to your army. Does it make the game more complicated? Yes. Does it make it harder to balance? Well, kinda does. Does it give flavor and great narrative feeling, as well as keeping the theme of the sub-faction? Definitely. Even speaking from examples above, 4 up, not to die if they didn't fight this turn when they are 3 inches within enemies, seems really strong. And in the game where most of the combat happens in melee, definitely strong. To balance it out, if it suddenly is too overpowered, make it 5+, 6+. Add Tempest Lords with their flight abilities are +2 damage to hit or to wound if the unit they are charging consists of more models than the Tempest Lord units, and so on and so on. Now let's jump to Seraphon. They haven't gotten their new battle tome yet, so it might change, but what do we have so far? I never played callless Seraphon in the 3rd edition, only Starborn. For those who are out of the lore, Starborn are wizard-focused lizardmen that live in the flying ships and are conjuring more lizards from their starlit magic, while callless finally descended into the mortal realms, materialized, and, well, they love big lizard, and I do as well. But let's not walk too far away. Each Starborn wizard gave you cosmic power tokens, which you could then spend to summon new units. Cool? Right. Strong? Definitely. Can you balance it? Just increase the number of points units take and that's it. Or just remove certain units if summoning them turns out to be too overpowered. Besides that, you got 2 constellations that you can take, Dracotion for Deep Strike and Fangs of Sotek if you want to play more skinks and constantly move them around the battle. But what do we have now though? Asterism as a general faction rule, which kinda remind me of the protocol for Necrons when I used to play them. You can pick one, and then at the end of the 3rd battle round, you can get the 2nd one if you meet the requirements. Itzel for cavalry, Quetzal for defending, Sotek for quick movement, and Tipok for wizards. All according to Great Plan, right? And even if this ability sounds interesting, it's adaptive, it allows you to change your strategy depending on your opponent, but it still makes your tactical decision less impactful while allowing you to pick safe options and not risk it. Battle formations though, 4 of them. 1 for relocating units using celestial magic, 1 for mobile skinks to showcase their maneuvers, 1 for monsters to make them more durable, but finally, the Zauros and Kroxigor based formations, allowing them to pile in and inflict mortal wounds. And I am sure that this was to replace the bite ability. What is a bite ability, you ask? In the previous edition, Zauros warriors, for example, could bite enemies when they just fought. Does it make sense? Yes. You saw their mouths, their teeth, and now it is removed. Was this ability incredibly powerful? Not really. Did it give you flavor and allowed you to chomp through your enemies' lines? Yes. Even if we consider it to be OP, raise the dice roll. It's that simple. But it got removed to make each army more universal and accessible. Is it generally a bad thing to make the game more accessible for new players? Of course not. I lived in places and was part of different communities where some of them were completely closed and even making fun of you as a new player, who is just trying to learn the game, but is it more of a game problem or community? Should you be able to jump into it and be incredible at it in 2-3 matches, when it claims to be a war game, a generally difficult genre to gain understanding in from title to title? I do not think so. New players played lower PTS games to gain a grasp of their army and general flow, slowly getting better and sometimes even exceeding people who were the best at it, and I prefer it that way. I do not consider it to be gatekeeping or something. It allows you not only to learn the game, but to grow ties with your community, gaining friends. However, if you dumb down the game to the condition where Spearhead is the best way to play it, that is weird. When you try to make it incredibly balanced without utilizing your ability to quickly change rules and iterate mechanics, turning it into one print board game, is it even a miniature collecting word game for epic battles anymore? It takes away the flavor I've been talking about this whole time and sacrifices depth and complexity, which was what brought people into the game in the first place, for accessibility and new players. But as I said, simplifying is good when it is done right, when it doesn't take away key qualities of the product. Does it mean that it is the end for the Age of Sigmar? Of course not. Game is growing, communities are growing, and they're gonna grow for at least a couple of years in the future. Most of the battle tomes are still to be released, and I am curious how it will turn out, and if the devs will listen to the community and at least acknowledge what has happened, soon we could play a completely different game. Or maybe it will all go by as it did in the 9th edition with a quick release of 10th, or maybe nothing will change, and we will soon play Spearheads and even there, units will differ only by visuals. Thank you. This is post-editorial Homer speaking. This video was harder to make than I expected, and I am glad that you listened to me ranting this far. Even now I think that this theme could be talked about for way longer, comparing and showcasing how the rules got simplified and sometimes not in a good way. I truly enjoy how they revised the combat system with combat ranges. It made the game generally more interactable with different commands and abilities, but the price of stripping down units of flavor is not ideal, and I know that there is a way to do it without that. The whole analysis could go on for at least 40 minutes, but even to do that, I would have to play all factions in the previous edition and this one to really see where the flavor lied, because right now most of what I'm talking about is based on how it feels and how it looks, later confirmed for the sake of argument by facts, and nothing showcases it more than what I've showed here. Again, if you have anything to share that is relevant to the topic, please write it down. As I said, I read a lot of general rules got stripped down on different subreddits, etc., but nothing pinpointing it out specifically. Or maybe I should just do the whole in-depth analysis of all factions, or factions one by one. I don't know. That's it for now. Now, thank you.